Hey, what is up, everyone out there in internet land? It's Mick O here at Camera Bits HQ, and along joining me is Andrew Howard. And Andrew is going to be talking workflow with a special guest this week, Dan Bracaglia, photo editor at DPReview. One of my favorite sites from back in the day with camera reviews, industry news, and a whole lot of technological coverage there. I mean, they've been doing it for so long, and they do it so well. They are just titans of the industry. And so having Dan here to talk about his workflow with Andrew is a big thrill for me and hope for the rest of you. And I'm going to definitely make Dan a presenter, and then he and Dan, or Dan and Andrew, can chat away, and I'll just be out here in the margins. Yep.
Kind of get succumb to a bad workflow. But yeah, I'm glad to see that you brought that its usefulness to the DPReview team.
Yeah, and so I was just gonna walk us through real quick. As photo editor, we were kind of talking about this before we started broadcasting, but we all have different editor titles at DPReview, but everyone kind of does a lot of the nitty gritty, heavy lifting, camera reviewing, that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to show you right now, though, is what I would normally work on just as a photo editor task, which is sorting through basically beauty shots of a camera for a review. So this is the Canon G7X Mark III. We've already published this review a couple months back. And so what we're looking at here is basically...
I just want to interrupt. Mick, are we getting sound?
Yeah, it was down for a little bit, but it is working now.
Okay, cool. Someone just let me know that they can hear me. So,
yeah,
all right, Dan.
Jeff and David have confirmed that they can hear.
All right, awesome.
Sweet.
Let me just do a quick re-intro for people who missed it. We're doing Workflow Wednesday here. I'm Mick from Camera Bits, and Andrew is a support agent and technical mastermind here at Camera Bits. And we're talking to Dan Bracaglia from DPReview. DPReview obviously is an industry titan, site camera reviews and technology news, and they do a lot of work with images. They have a lot of sample images. They have a lot of product images. They do the most in-depth camera reviews anyone's ever seen, and Dan has a lot to do with that. So we're going to talk with Dan about his workflow. Now I'm going to get out of the way here and let them get back to it.
Thanks, Mick. Cool, Dan. You can pick up from where you were doing.
Cool, yeah. So we're just taking a peek. Photo mechanics is a huge part of the workflow, from everything, as you said, to sorting sample photos to product shots to test images. So as photo editor, this is a pretty normal task. I'll get out of the studio, or I'll go into the studio with a shot list. In this case, it's the G7X Mark III. And, I'll sort through the way that I like to sort with Photo Mechanic. Actually, I'm going to open up a folder that doesn't have pre-selected ones. But the way I like to work, and the way I've always done it, is I'll start with just using the select function and just hit, you can fly through, and this is one of my favorite things. Obviously, I'm on a pretty fast machine here, but I can fly through these, and the ones that I want, I can just hit T, check mark them, keep going. And it's really about, as a photo editor looking through a million images, you kind of need to develop, anyone who does photography knows you want to develop kind of a flow as you're working through it, so you're not getting bogged down, looking at the same two images over and over again. So once I've got things kind of sorted out, I'll just pick a couple more here arbitrarily. Oops. I just got my keyboard replaced, so I'm still getting used to the nuances of it. Thank you, Apple. Yeah, so anyway, once, one thing that's really nice is once I have the ones I want to look at, I can just hit function F3. That brings me to my selects. And, you can jump back super easily. And then my next step is always, I'll go through with the color coding. And for no real reason at all, I've never used pink. Pink is just I guess maybe the number 2 key is a lot easier for me to hit. So I always start my first hit of ratings at 2 and then go, you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes me weird or not, but I'm going to jump back to the ones I already selects made.
So have you just kind of developed your own color label system that red means a certain thing, blue means a different thing?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember back in the day, I think you all had them labeled as winner and different stuff like that.
Yeah, that's actually, you can actually go back to that default in one of the snapshots, but because now to match up, I think the default now basically matches up with Lightroom, and because those labels need to match to make it mesh, then I think it maybe seemed logical that we had something that just right off the bat worked with software that a lot of other people are using. So
yeah, no, that does make sense. And as someone who and just to jump to a topic I hear all the time from confused people, people will ask me, so you don't use Lightroom, you use Photo Mechanic? And I'm like, no, they're both super important parts of my workflow. No matter what we're doing, and a lot of times we're testing cameras where there's no RAW support yet, so it doesn't make sense to use Lightroom. Photo Mechanic is one of our main tools when sorting through those images as well. And we often, we'll get Adobe Camera Raw support a lot earlier than we'll get Lightroom support for RAW files. So kind of depending on the day, after Photo Mechanic, I may be going to Photoshop, I might be going to Lightroom, I might be going into Adobe Camera Raw. It kind of just depends. But the one thing that is consistent is this system of photo mechanics. So, right now I'm going to we'll look at my selects, and you can see this is everything for a whole review, including, detail shots of the battery, side-by-sides. And so the ones in red are, they're all, at this point, everything selected red would probably get processed out. But if we look at just our oranges, these are like the main ones that would be used in the lead beauty shot gallery.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's the simplest way I use it. Obviously, once these get processed and saved, I'll generally just do a batch rename. Again, so simple, so quick. Yeah. That's sort of like, I mean, it's pretty uncomplicated the way I use the product, but the speed at which it works and the simplicity of what it can do, and what it's like having a Swiss Army knife. It has a lot of like little functions it can do when you need them, but they're tucked away and on in your way when you don't want them. So I would say that's why I appreciate it so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times people are, they're coming from an older version of photo mechanic, and they're calling me and they're saying, as part of our call, they're saying what's new, and a lot of times it's photo mechanic is a lot of little things that all do, it's a certain task. So I'm always like, yeah, it's hard to kind of list off these different things because your workflow may just be totally different than what I'm thinking of at the moment. So one thing, you went and shot these photos, right? Like, are you sending them to an editor and they're then doing color work on them, or like what's it like after, the next step here, I guess? Yeah. Generally
speaking, I'm sending them to the editor, being myself, and doing all the color work. But there are times where I'll shoot stuff, and once I get to this point where I have these selects, I'll kind of depending. And actually, I misspoke a little bit for some of these. Like, rather than batch renaming, I'll just go in here and rename it like Canon G7X3 Flash. For SEO purposes, for when it actually goes up on the site. But yeah, a lot of times what I'll do here at this point is I'll just copy these into a folder, throw them on our server, and let whoever the lead camera reviewer is process them out. Yeah, so, but pretty simple. And, they're obviously, like you said, a lot of the color coding, if they're using Lightroom, it's going to coordinate. Obviously, if they're using Photo Mechanic, it's going to be there. So, yeah.
Has this, I mean, obviously everyone's lives has changed recently, but has this, have you been able to pretty easily migrate to working apart from your team? Or, I mean, how independent were you previously? And,
I would say we're a staff of about, there's about 12 people on the editorial side. God, I hope I'm not forgetting someone. Maybe there's 13, maybe there's 14. I don't know. We've got somewhere between 12 and 14 people on the editorial side, and we all do work in the same office. And that actually is that collaborative environment I kind of mentioned before, how it's a mix of journalism background and technical scientific background people. It's been tough because there is a need to bump elbows with people who are approaching technology differently than you are, and are approaching subjects differently than you are. Like, that collaboration has definitely been stifled to some degree. And also our server is very, very slow if you're connecting through a remote desktop, which doesn't make things particularly easy. But still, we're pressing on. Some of the stuff we've been able to do is, we've been trying to catch up on sample galleries, which, obviously we have a lot of gear sitting in the office that we can still go access and go out and shoot and keep our distance from people safely. So that's been something. Testing's kind of had to grind to a halt, unfortunately.
Right.
But we're coming up with content and we're having kind of fun with it. We're trying to keep things light. I've been writing a ton about film photography and like home developing your own black and white film and stuff like that. So things that we've been wanting to work on for a long time, we've had more time to get published. So that's been kind of cool.
Yeah. I think I don't know if you came up with an answer to this one, but I did try to prep you for it. But do you think you have a secret for photo mechanic that no one else has come up with, or a workflow thing that no one else knows? If you don't, that's fine. I'm just I'm trying to
God,
see.
I feel like no, you did ask me this before, and I felt like I had something I was gonna say. Let me think. What is something I always um I'm gonna pass on this, and maybe we can come back to it in a few minutes because I feel like there was something.
Gotcha.
I will say another thing that's super helpful. A lot of times we have to go add information to, for instance, sample galleries when
Mhm.
we upload photos to our sample galleries in the back end. Sometimes it'll pull the correct exposure info, sometimes it won't. And so
Okay.
Photo Mechanic is totally an invaluable tool to just like quickly thumb through and see, to get that information, dump it in a caption real quick if it didn't actually pull through correctly. Um,
So that's a good. I mean, I'll take that as a jumping off point for it's Workflow Wednesday, so I gotta throw in something to feature a photo mechanic. But are you familiar with how to customize the text box that you're talking about?
no, let's go through it.
So if you go back to the so for the people that didn't see on the right hand side here, we have this info panel that you can scroll up and down, but these are the default settings, and that's so Photo Mechanic is going to show you information about what's about this image. Above that, there's of course the percentage slider, so you can choose how large it is. But what I'm looking for is I gotta actually remind myself. I believe it's in the edit menu. So at the top of your screen there, and then I think it's in settings. I'm trying to do this from memory. So down the bottom there, set info text. So that one right in the middle there. So this is the master of that panel there. So you have all these lines of text there, and you can, if you only want to see the date and the exposure information, you can delete that. If you want to see the the color profile that the image has higher up in the in that list, you could just copy and paste that line, and then any variable that's available to you in Photo Mechanic is something that you can put in this info window. So I don't, a lot of these variables I don't personally use, but maybe Dan, you have a use for them. But if you wanted to, want something that's not there right now is like your the location information. I don't know if you tagged your stuff with the location of this, where this was taken, because it's not super important. It's probably taken in your office, right? But you could, if your location information had been filled out in the stationary pad or set when it was ingested, it should show up in that list right there. You really have to close out the window.
I'm gonna guess I don't. I also don't think I have a city saved in the camera info, so it's probably just not gonna pull it.
Yeah, that's definitely a That's if you, because I think you just put so you just put the variable in there, and when you do that, it's gonna exactly. So now that bottom line there is gonna actually say city, and then if it's blank, it's gonna be blank. There's not much we can do about that unless you enter it.
There it is. Yep.
I find
so
putting,
I mean, a lot of times
I don't, dimensions and whatnot. Pixel
it doesn't matter
dimensions
to me.
was good.
Oh, sorry, Nick.
I was going to say putting pixel dimensions there might be very helpful for you in terms of.
That's a great suggestion. Yeah, that is a very good suggestion.
I'm looking for at the high res or the low res. That's
for sure.
Well, actually, go ahead. I'll tell you after this, I'm going to get through and spend a little time monkeying here because this is very good to know.
And then so actually on top of that, some people like this feature and some don't, but it's there. If you actually go through that for just a second, I'm gonna open up Photo Mechanic on my computer so I can tell you where I'm gonna tell you to go. View. There's an additional place to see that information if you want to browse the contact sheet. So if you close out the variables window for just a second and you go to the view menu, there we go. Oops. So show info tooltips. It's about 3/4 of the way down on that menu. So now if you turn that on and you move your cursor over over so move your, yeah, there you go. So you can actually, the list that you see here also reflects the information from that set info text window. So if you want to mouse over your images and get to that information, that is how you get that pop up to happen. So, I don't personally use that either, but again, something that if you need to view a lot of images and see, pixel dimension right there, that's a place that you can see that. But
yeah, that's
of course with
yeah. Hold on, I have to get rid of my. I'm not a fan of having city there anymore. I'll get rid of that, but I do like pixels. That is super helpful, especially. We also often with a sample gallery, we may shoot it with a couple different cameras. Even if it's like, for instance, a Nikon F mount, we'll throw it on APS-C because people still have APS-C and buy full frame, lenses for their system. So that is super helpful to be able to see. I'm just gonna pull up a different. Oh, this is the wrong drive.
Yeah, it's even just like, we give you a lot of information there by default, but if you don't want to see all of it, you can certainly decide what goes there and what doesn't. And okay.
So again, I just want to reinforce the fact that when we shoot lens galleries, we don't shoot JPEGs because we're always processing everything through Adobe Camera Raw, and it is so nice to have a way I can open a big old folder of raw files and sort through these no issue and get these excellent previews. So you can see how fast. Like obviously, again, it's computer, it's machine dependent, but this makes my life easy. And there are other ways you could sort photos that even with the fastest machine in the world will still have little hangups. So yeah, this is a recent gallery we did for the Panasonic G25mm f1.8 lens. This is my dog Belvedere. This was right before quarantine, so I did a couple of band photos with these guys. Everly Crusher, pretty cool band. There's Belvedere. And yeah, everything that was red was what ultimately. Actually, no, I guess. See, I lied. I did use pink. Pink was the ones that I removed. So I guess I do occasionally use the pink. But it's always really a negative thing.
You made it, you make it work. Because that's another question I get is like, do you need to use color labels for a certain thing? And it's really not. It's a lot about like what works for you. So
it's just what works for you. Totally.
All that, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, let's, I think, unless do you have anything else anything like hot on your mind that you want to share, or if you thought of a way that you use Photo Mechanic in some secret way?
God, I feel like there's something here, and I can't put my finger on it, but I can always come back on and we can discuss it if I come up with it.
Sure, man. Cool. Well, you said you do have to run in a little bit, so I'm gonna let you go. Yeah. Again, Dan's a editor at DPReview. If there's anything else you're working on personally, you can shout it out. But yeah, I
have a personal website called thelondonbroil.com full of fun images, and it's woefully out of date. So I would say go to dpreview.com, give us a click. You follow us on Instagram. I've been doing our Instagram account for a little over a year now, and there's some pretty fun new Instagram stories content on there that we're experimenting with. So yeah.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's good.
Yeah, DPReview.
Good to talk to you all.
Excellent. And if you have a couple seconds, I just wanted to ask you about, for your own personal film photography, do you ever use Photo Mechanic to kind of organize your scanned images?
Oh yeah, huge part of it. Exactly the same thing. I don't think I'm still sharing the screen, but yeah, I've been doing a ton of film stuff lately. It's been a hot topic for us on DPReview because people are stuck at home and it's a fun thing to do. And we just did a gallery of Acros 2, the new film stock sample gallery, sample images. And yeah, having a 300 megabyte TIFF file, having 24 300 megabyte TIFF files for my scans, it's so easy to open them in Photo Mechanic and, get the ones I want and then pull those into, whatever I'm going to finally process them in.
And do you ever use
I just thought
EXIF tool to add metadata to those scans?
Go ahead, sorry.
I do, yeah, absolutely. I'll, that's actually a great question. It's basically what I just, everything gets renamed, the folder structure name dash, whatever the file image number is. So I do that. If I'm if I'm being good, I'll put the film stock in and like actually save that kind of info in there. I'm not always that great about doing that, but certainly for DPReview stuff, I always fill out the metadata fields with that.
I just personally, I was working on a project where I was able to make droplets in Mac OS for EXIF tool, and then I configured those as external editors in Photo Mechanic. So I could make an EXIF tool droplet that will add like metadata for a film body or a lens combination, and then I can just select a bunch of scans in Photo Mechanic and apply that droplet right in there. It's been pretty cool. If you want more tips on that, you can hit me up on email afterwards, or we can totally talk about it.
I was going to say that.
I would love that. That'd be great. Right.
That's next week's stream. Mick, I wasn't looking at the live video. I don't know if anybody had questions. We didn't get too in depth with anything super crazy, so I imagine it was, but if anybody had questions that you want to shout out.
I've been keeping an eye on the chat, and I answered a few questions just about general PM stuff, but nothing specific for Dan.
Cool. No worries. Anyway, I'm going to let you go, Dan. Mick, if you want to take us out.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for joining us on this week's Workflow Wednesday Live. We're not sure what we're going to do next week, but we'll come up with a good topic, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we'll let you know. Also, our upgrade sale should be ending at the end of this month, so now is a great time to pick up an upgrade of previous editions of Photo Mechanic to upgrade to PM6 for $49. And there's also a little discount off new licenses if you're brand new to us as well. But yeah, that's it. Thanks again, Dan. Thank you, Andrew. And
thanks, Mick.
I'll be shutting down the stream, but everyone stay strong, and yeah, good to see you all, and keep taking photos. Bye-bye.